Urbanization is a population shift from countryside to urban areas. It is the process by which towns and cities are formed and become larger as more and more people begin living and working in central areas. Urbanization is generally a product of modernization and industrialization. According to Fostering Earth Observation and Global Awareness, the population growth in urban areas will be concentrated in the cities and towns of less developed countries. Asia, in particular, is projected to see its urban population increase by 1.4 billion, Africa by 0.9 billion, and Latin America and the Caribbean by 0.2 billion. According to Stats Canada, in 1890, 69% of Canada population lived in the country areas and 13% lived in urban. In 2011, 81% of Canada population lives in urban area rather than 19% living in country areas. In Ontario alone, 86% of the population lives in urban areas, 14% in the country areas. The three largest urban cities in Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, made up just over one-third, 35% of Canada's entire population in 2011. Urbanization is not just a Canadian situation, but a global one as well. All around the globe, urbanization is occurring. According to the report by the UN's Department of Economic and Social Affairs, more than half of the world's population, 7 billion people, live in urban areas, with the top megacities being Tokyo, Delhi, Shanghai, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo. It took nearly 40 years from 1970 to 2008 for India's urban population to rise by nearly 230 million. It will take only half that time to add the next 250 million. Urbanization began during the Industrial Revolution. The first sign of urbanization began in England in the 18th century, and from there it spread other parts of the world. The population went from being agricultural to industrial. This meant people moved off of the farms and out of the country. Meanwhile, technology changed. In the 19th century, Britain became the world's first industrial society. It also became the first urban city by 1850. More than half the population lived in the towns rather than in the countryside. However, urbanization is still occurring even in Canada, but at a much slower rate. According to a survey conducted by the Ontario Ministry of Finance, the GTA is our home to the 6.5 million people. This is an increase of 22% from 2001, where the GTA was home to only 5.3 million people. Over the same 2001 to 2013 period, the population of Toronto increased only 10%.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Today, more than half of all people in the world live in an urban area. By mid-century, this will increase to 70%. But as recently as 100 years ago, only 2 out of 10 people lived in a city, and before that, it was even less.
There isn't one person to blame for urbanization except the companies and the government at the time. Urbanization only occurred because countries wanted to develop their economy. The Industrial Revolution occurred. In America, many can come to an agreement and blame Thomas Jefferson for urbanization initially. Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States and founder of the University of Virginia. He set the Embargo Act of 1807 during the Napoleonic Wars. He initially set the embargo because Britain's navy opened fire when they weren't allowed to search one of the American ships. At the time America was neutral, he wanted Britain and economics to struggle without receiving goods from America. He wanted them to respect America's neutrality and stop impressment. However, in reality, the only economy that was affected was America's. After war in the 1800s, countries became to realize that the United States wasn't the best country and needed to improve. Before the war, however, America, and especially their economy, relied heavily on the foreign countries due to embargo of the 1807. They lacked foreign goods. Jefferson noticed that America needed to manufacture its own goods and to be able to support itself. They began the Industrial Revolution in order to support themselves. Think of it like this. Countries wanted to be economically strong or independently strong, so they'd result in manufacturing or producing their own goods, which resulted in industrial revolution. There are two factors as to why urbanization is happening. Many people move from country to urban to get jobs in the rapidly expanding industries in many large towns and cities. There are more jobs in urban areas because industries are attracted to cities because there's a large work. According to a labor force survey conducted by Stats Canada, it states that in a country area, 57% are employed, and in an urban area, 62% are employed. Many believe that the standard of living in urban areas will be much better than country areas. There are many precautions in minimizing urbanization we as a country and perhaps world can take. For one, many believe the government is so much engrossed in the problems of large cities that small and medium cities remain neglected cities. Almost no resources go into their development, even though their development could greatly help to reduce problems of over urbanizations in large metro cities. Therefore, development should be promoted both in areas sending migrants and in areas receiving them. Chinese government is working to restrict growth in its present urban areas by limiting the size of existing big cities, developing the existing medium-sized cities, and encouraging the growth of small cities. Urbanization is a process in which an increased proportion of the society lives in cities and the suburbs of the cities. Overall, urbanizations will undoubtedly be one of the great distributor of the 21st century, and both developing and developed nations alike will need to deal with their own respective difficulties. The world is changing, and these cities will just need to adjust accordingly in order to efficiently handle these changes. However, to fix the urbanization crisis, countries need to tackle the overpopulation crisis.